caught my fiancé with my brother. So I opened the books, called my lawyer, and took them to court. I threw her out by 6, built a 3-inch file, sent the 147-page report to the district attorney, and watched him plead guilty while she got convicted on all counts. Welcome to WZ Tales. Today's story is about a man who discovers that his fiancée is cheating with his own brother while both of them are stealing from the business he built. As you listen, think about the moment you would have stopped giving second chances. My name is Derek Thompson. I am 44 years old, and I own 3 car dealerships across Oregon. I built this business from nothing. I started as a lot attendant when I was 19, worked my way up, and bought my first struggling dealership at 32. 12 years later, I had 3 successful locations and a reputation for honest deals in an industry that does not always reward honesty. Michelle came into my life 2 years ago at a charity auction. She was 35, recently divorced, with a daughter named Lily who lived with Michelle's parents in Salem. Michelle told me she was not ready to be a full-time mother yet. She said she needed to find herself after a toxic marriage. I respected what I thought was honesty. We got engaged 8 months ago. We were planning a small ceremony for the next month at a vineyard outside Portland. Nothing flashy, just family and close friends. My son Austin, who was 15 and away at a military academy in Colorado, was supposed to be my best man. My brother Ryan, my finance manager at the main dealership, was going to stand beside him. That was before tonight. I was standing outside the Roosevelt Room, an upscale cocktail bar in downtown Portland, watching through the window. Michelle was laughing with a man in an expensive suit. Her hand was resting on his forearm. She leaned close to whisper something, and he smiled back at her in a way I knew too well. Sometimes the truth does not arrive all at once. Sometimes it stands right in front of you and waits for you to admit what you are seeing. She had told me she had a late meeting with a former colleague. She said she would be home by 9. It was 10:30, and she looked like her night was only beginning. On our shared tablet, I had already seen the Uber confirmation. The drop-off address did not match the story she gave me. The pickup name was different too. 3 nights earlier, she had come home at 2 in the morning smelling like whiskey and cologne that was not mine. When I asked about it, she rolled her eyes and called me paranoid. She poured herself coffee like I was the problem. But I was not crazy. I was standing there looking at the proof. I walked into the bar. The music was low, some kind of jazz, and the lighting was dim in that deliberate way bars use when they want every table to feel private. I made my way through the crowd until I was close enough to see her clearly. The bartender, a young guy trying hard to grow a beard, asked what I wanted. Instead of ordering a drink, I pulled a small velvet box out of my jacket pocket. Inside was the engagement ring. Princess cut platinum band, $12,000. Michelle had told me it was exactly what she had always wanted. I pointed toward her booth. See that woman over there? She has a cranberry martini coming, right? He followed my finger and nodded. Put this next to it when you deliver the drink. I slid the ring box across the bar. He looked confused at first, then opened the box and saw the diamond. His whole expression changed. He set the drink and the ring box on a tray, gave me one more uncertain glance and carried it over. I watched Michelle notice the box. Her smile disappeared. Her hand stopped halfway to the glass. She opened it, saw the ring, and went pale. Then she looked around the room until her eyes found mine. I did not wave. I did not speak. I just looked at her until she understood that I knew. Then I turned and walked out. No yelling, no speech, no scene. That kind of silence says enough. I had made it halfway to my truck when I heard footsteps behind me, fast ones. I stopped, but I did not turn around. The voice belonged to the man from the bar. Hey, wait up, man. I looked back. He held up his hands like he wanted me to know he was not a threat. Look, I did not know, he said. I swear to God, I had no idea she was engaged. He looked mid-30s, polished, expensive suit, the kind of man who probably leased a BMW and never missed a barber appointment. He pulled out his phone and showed me messages. Michelle had told him she had ended things with her ex a month ago. She said I was still around, but only temporarily. I laughed once, bitterly. I live with her. I slept in the same bed with her this morning. Then he showed me something else. A text from an anonymous number warning him to be careful because Michelle was not who she claimed to be. He had assumed it came from a jealous ex and ignored it. He walked back toward the bar after telling me I was lucky to find out now. But something he said stuck with me. He mentioned Michelle told him she went to CrossFit on her lunch breaks. That was strange because Michelle always told me she was going to Orange Theory 3 times a week. That was the moment the betrayal widened. I opened the tracking app I had installed on her car the year before after it had been broken into in one of my dealership lots. I scrolled through her recent location history. Monday at noon, Orange Theory. Wednesday at noon, Orange Theory. Friday at noon, not Orange Theory. Friday at noon, a house in Beaverton. I dropped the address into Street View. Craftsman-style house. Red door. Silver Lexus in the driveway with a Thompson Auto Group dealer frame. Ryan's car. I drove there. It took 23 minutes in light traffic. The curtains were open. I could see movement inside. As I sat there, my phone buzzed with a text from Michelle. "Where are you?" "Running errands," I typed back. "Be home soon," she replied, followed by, "Love you." That was the kind of message that makes a lie feel even dirtier. I walked up to the red door and pounded on it hard enough to make it sound like police. Ryan opened it wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and no shoes, like I had interrupted a lazy afternoon. Michelle appeared behind him in yoga pants and one of Ryan's old sweatshirts. She froze. So did he. For a few seconds, nobody said anything. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "How long?" Ryan looked like a teenager caught stealing. 8 months, he said quietly. 8 months. We had gotten engaged 8 months earlier. I had proposed on Valentine's Day at Multnomah Falls. Ryan had been the first person I called. He congratulated me, raised a glass to our future, and all that time he was sleeping with her. Michelle started crying. "I loved you both. I could not choose." "That is not love," I said. "That is cowardice." That was one of those moments where people tell on themselves without meaning to. She did not say it was a mistake. She did not deny it. She said she could not choose. Ryan started mumbling that it was never supposed to happen, that they tried to stop. I looked around the house and asked if it belonged to him. He said yes. He had bought it 3 months ago. Michelle had helped him pick it out. 3 months earlier, she had told me she was apartment hunting for a friend. I had believed her. I had believed all of it. I took out my phone and started taking pictures, Michelle covering her face. Ryan standing there hollow and useless. The house. The Lexus with my dealer frame in the driveway. Then I told them what was going to happen. Ryan would write his resignation. He had 2 weeks to clear out his office. Accounting would review every transaction he had touched. Michelle had until the next evening to get out of my house. She asked where she was supposed to go. I told her I did not care. I drove home in silence. No music, no phone calls, just tires on the road and the sound of my own breathing. When I got home, I went straight to my office and opened the dealership financials. At first I found small discrepancies, then larger ones. Fake customer rebates, inflated service charges, manipulated trade and values. By the time I started connecting the numbers, the picture was clear. Ryan had not only betrayed me personally. He had been stealing from me for over a year. By midnight, I had traced roughly $187,000 in fraud. I called my attorney and told him I needed 2 things drafted immediately: a termination letter and a criminal complaint for embezzlement. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my office until sunrise documenting every theft, every forged signature, every lie. By 6 in the morning, I had built a file 3 inches thick. Michelle came home at 7:30. She stopped outside the office door. "Can we talk?" "No." I told her she had until 6 that evening to pack. After that, I was changing the locks. Then she dropped a piece of paper on my desk. It showed a deposit of $43,000 into an account tied to her Social Security number. She said she did not know about it. She said Ryan must have used her name without telling her. Maybe that was true, maybe it was not, but this is what repeated dishonesty does. Even when a person might be telling the truth, they have already trained you not to trust a word of it. Before I could think much more about it, my phone rang. It was Austin. "Dad," he said, and I could hear strain in his voice. "Is it true?" Ryan had already called him and tried to spin his own version of the story, so I told my son the truth as simply as I could. I told him his uncle had been stealing from the dealership and having an affair with Michelle. I told him I had proof of both. There was silence on the line. Then he said, "I am coming home." He was 15, 2,000 miles away and already arranging a flight back to Oregon. I did not stop him. He deserved the truth in person. When he arrived that night in his academy uniform, something inside me settled. He dropped his bag and hugged me hard. "Dad," he said, "you look terrible." It was exactly the right thing to say. We drove home quietly. Austin did not fill silence just to fill it. He looked out the window, taking everything in. He always had that way about him, even as a kid. Calm on the outside, paying attention on the inside. That afternoon, I called Michelle's mother, Barbara Cole, because I was worried about Lily. Barbara told me Lily was confused and blaming herself. That hit me harder than I expected. Lily was 13. She had done nothing wrong, yet she was carrying guilt that belonged to adults. I asked Barbara if I could speak to her. When Lily got on the phone, I told her gently that her mother and I had split because of bad choices adults made, and none of it had anything to do with her. She started crying softly and asked if she could call again sometime. Austin took the phone after me, and within minutes he had found a way to make her laugh. It was simple, kind, normal, exactly what she needed. After the call, Austin said, "Dad, if things get really bad and her grandparents cannot handle everything, could we take her in?" It was a huge thing to say for a 15-year-old, but he was right about one part. Someone had to think about that girl. 2 hours later, Michelle started flooding my phone with angry texts. She accused me of going behind her back. She threatened legal action. She called it harassment. I forwarded every message to my attorney. 3 weeks later, the forensic accountants finished their report, 147 pages. The final number was worse than my first estimate. $212,000 stolen over 19 months. 11 shell companies, payments routed through fake vendors, hidden transactions, repeated fraud, and Michelle was in it. The report included emails showing her discussing payment timing, account movement, and vendors to impersonate. She was not an innocent bystander whose name appeared on paperwork by accident. She was involved. That is the hard part about betrayal. You keep hoping there is one innocent corner left. Then the facts walk in and close that door too. I sent the report to my attorney and the district attorney. I called my parents next. My mother cried. My father was steady. He told me I had done the right thing, even if it meant Ryan would go to prison. That mattered more than I can explain. A lot of families protect the wrong person just to keep the peace. Mine chose truth. Ryan's lawyer tried one last move. Full restitution plus 20% if I agreed to drop criminal charges. He warned that they would argue I only cared after learning about the affair, as if the theft itself might be treated like an emotional reaction instead of a documented crime. I told him good luck with that. The evidence spoke for itself. The trial began on a cold morning in February. Ryan pleaded guilty and took a reduced sentence. 3 years in prison, 5 years probation, full restitution, plus damages. Michelle fought harder. She claimed she had been manipulated. The emails told another story. The jury convicted her on all counts. She was sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security facility, 3 years probation, and ordered to repay more than $90,000. People think justice feels dramatic when it arrives. For me, it mostly felt exhausting. Outside the courthouse, reporters tried to swarm me. I said nothing. Austin was leaning against the truck, arms crossed, waiting for me. "It is done," I told him. A few weeks later, Barbara called to thank me for protecting Lily from the worst parts of everything. Then she told me Lily had said I was a good man. That one almost broke me. 3 weeks after the trial, my parents came to visit. My mother held me for a full minute. My father hugged me too and told me he was proud of me. We had dinner together and, for the first time in a long time, talked about normal things, college plans, work, expansion, the future. That is when I realized recovery does not always arrive as relief. Sometimes it arrives as ordinary conversation returning to your life. I hired a new finance manager, Caroline Jeffers, a former CPA with 15 years of experience. She was sharp and careful. In her first week, she caught a filing error and flagged it immediately. The dealerships slowly recovered. We improved the systems, tightened oversight, and opened a 4th location in Salem. The kind of fraud Ryan had run became almost impossible to repeat. Austin came home for spring break taller, more focused, more sure of himself. He told me he was thinking about applying to West Point. Then he said something I will never forget. "You taught me to be serious about things that matter." I did not have a speech ready for that. I just nodded. Lily started doing well too. Honor roll. Debate team. A regional writing award. She and Austin kept in touch by video call and Barbara sent me updates. I sent congratulations back. Austin became the steady older brother figure she had been missing. 8 months after the trial, I sold the house. There were too many ghosts in those rooms. I bought a smaller place on Lake Oswego with a view of the water. Austin helped me move. We painted walls, built furniture, and made the place feel like ours. It was the first home that felt clean again. Then one Saturday morning, I was sitting at a coffee shop when a woman sat down across from me. Ponytail, jeans, kind eyes, around 40. "You are Derek Thompson," she said. "You sold me a silver Accord 3 years ago." I remembered the sale. She told me her name was Jennifer. She was a graphic designer, divorced, with a 10-year-old son. She said she had followed some of what happened and wanted to thank me for the way I handled it. Then we started talking, and 2 hours passed without either of us noticing. Before she left, she gave me her number and asked if I wanted to have dinner the following Friday. I said yes. When I drove home with the windows down and the October air coming through the truck, Austin looked over at me and grinned. "You look different," he said. Maybe I did. That night I stood on the back deck looking out at the water and the stars. I thought about the betrayal, the theft, the trial, the prison sentences, and the damage done to people who did not deserve any of it. But I also thought about what it held. Austin flying home to stand beside me, Lily finding her footing, my parents choosing what was right over what was easy, strangers showing kindness when they did not have to, and I understood something clearly. Fear was what Michelle counted on. Confusion too. She used both to keep me off balance. She assumed I would hesitate long enough for her lies to keep working, but I was not just surviving anymore. I was living. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The lessons here are simple. Lesson 1, when someone keeps asking for trust while giving you less and less truth, that is not a relationship. That is a setup. Lesson 2, betrayal usually does not stay in one lane. A person who lies in love may also be lying in money, loyalty, and everything else. Lesson 3, silence can be stronger than rage. Walking away at the right moment often says more than any argument. Lesson 4, family is not just blood. It is the people who choose truth when lying would be easier. Lesson 5, protecting your peace is not cruelty. Sometimes it is the first healthy decision you have made in a long time. So what would you have done the moment Derek saw that ring box open at the bar? And if someone betrayed you both personally and financially, would you have handled it the same way or made a different choice?